In this video, I'll go over everything you need to know regarding the strategies on the tracks in the Banana Cup. We'll go over the track picking, item sets, power item spots, bomb spots, and the shock spots. I usually would have something else to say here, but I don't have anything today. I guess I'll say thank you so much for all the support recently. I really appreciate it. But without further ado, let's start giving her, bud. Just before getting started, if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing. It's free. It helps me out a lot, and you can always change your mind. Starting things off, we got Dry Desert. I'm pretty sure this track does not need an explanation. It's the most popular bagging track in the game, and for good reason. In most cases, you are blatantly putting yourself at a disadvantage if you run, and you have so many strategies you can take advantage of when you're chilling in the back. In a 6v6, this is the track you want to pick when you mostly have bottom spots. This is a perfect option if you want to reset spots, as this is a very random track for the most part, but you can take advantage of that. In Mogi, this may sound crazy, but I'd actually suggest picking this if you think every other person in your room would bag and then you would run. Being the only runner isn't a terrible strategy, and if everyone over bags, you could really profit from that. Of course, if you like bagging in general, or if this gets picked and you don't feel comfortable running, you could also pick this to bag if you want. But overall, there is no debate that Dry Desert is a hard bagging track. Like most tracks, you have 3 item sets on this track. Well, the first set is your basic 5 single boxes. Keep in mind that this, along with the other item sets, is a great set to bag at and pull up to 3 items without being pretty much stationary for too long. And honestly, this is the best item set to bag at as well. At the second set, you have 5 single boxes with a double box right of the 2 left boxes. Specifically on lap 2, whether you get an item or not, I would say that this is the most important item set on this track. And at the last set, you have 4 single boxes with 2 double boxes, both next to the very left and right boxes. If you're in panic mode on lap 3, this is a crucial item set for you to get a box or 2 from. This is an incredibly strong golden strat. Begin goldening at the shroom spot and stay in the right off-road section, and your golden will finish in time for you to hop into the short turn section. If you have an item like a star or triple shrooms in your pocket, this can be a game changer for you. The star strat is also very good, but it's a bit outdated, or rather underrated, I suppose. Either way, chaining your star at the first set, whether you bag or not, can help you out a lot. If you have triple shrooms after, they could win you the race. And early on lap 2, having a build on this track is probably the best item you can have. If you need an extra item, go for it at the second set, then hop into the off-road and activate your build. It'll drop you off right before the last set, so if you have an item like a golden after, you're in an amazing position in the race. This is a pretty wide track, so these bomb spots can only do so much. Either way, back your bomb on the left side of this pokey, or wherever you have more room as it moves around each lap. You may be more inclined to back your bomb somewhere else on the short turn section to get the best results, but either way, this one is pretty good. You can also back your bomb shortly after the sand pit. In most cases, if your opponents avoid this bomb, they'll be forced to go around the ramp, so you'll be profiting from that alone, which is nice. And finally, after getting the 2 tricks underwater, back your bomb in between the main path and the shortcut in some way. Your opponents may predict you to back it in one place or the other, so this can be solid, but only in some situations. It's just alright in my opinion. While you can activate your shock at any set and profit heavily from it in most scenarios, I think you can make the most out of chaining your shock into the last set. Alongside shocking most or all people in front of you, they also won't be able to take the ending shortcut, which is a big deal in a lap 3 situation. You'll very likely be able to take the ending shortcut yourself, but one way or another, you're bound to profit big time from the shock spot, most notably on lap 3. In that situation, you could literally flip the race into you or your team's favor. But with that, we're done with the strategies on Dry Desert. So let's get her going on Donut Plains 3. Donut Plains 3 is a short and very obnoxious track online. Yay! That's at least my opinion. If you like how this track functions, I won't take that away from you. It's definitely lighter than Dry Desert, but because you can easily win the race doing so, I think it's fair to consider this track a bagging track. You can absolutely get away with running, especially in wars, but I feel like bagging works too much better than other balance tracks to consider this to be a balance track. In wars, I suggest picking this when you have a wide range of spots in the front, middle, and back. This is one of those tracks where ideally, you want your top spots to run and your bottom spots to bag, so it makes sense to pick this track in this scenario. In Mogi, it really doesn't matter. Just pick this track if you like it, point blank period. Like most bagging tracks in Mogi, whatever spot you're starting in has no relevance unless you plan on running, I suppose. But yeah, Donut Plains 3 in my eyes is a bagging track, but you can still get away with running. It's a light bagging track. Because this is a shorter track, there are only 2 item sets on this track. The first set is one of the widest sets in the game, with there being 7 single boxes. Considering this is a tighter turn, this is a pretty big set. It's also a very important one though, and that's because when taking tight lines, you have to skip the second set entirely. Speaking of the second set, you have 4 single boxes with 2 double boxes sandwiching a right single box. Again, if you're running, this item set is likely irrelevant to you, but it's still a solid item set if you're bagging for sure, so don't take it for granted. Naturally, because this is a bagging track, you have some really good power item spots here. Starting with the golden, begin goldening in the off-road on the U-turn. It'll last until you're midway through the final straight, and if you have a power item like a star in your pocket, you could be in an amazing position in the race. Speaking of the star, if you have one, it's really important to chain it into the first set on lap 2 or 3 if you can. You'll be able to take the beginning shortcut, likely with 2 or more strong items as well. In a lap 3 situation especially, this one is really good. And for the bill, you want to activate it where you would begin the golden strat. Just like the golden, it'll drop you off a little before the first set, so these 2 strats are very similar, but because the bill is the bill, it's more ideal to use this one. Again, if you have an item like a star in your pocket, this strat can go hard. You can definitely take advantage of bombs on this track. After the first set, it's better to back your bomb in the shortcut, as whether your opponents are taking it with a shroom or not, they'll likely get screwed over big time and have to crawl out of the off-road a wee bit. So it's pretty solid. I also like backing a bomb in the middle of the second last turn. This is an easy way to screw people over, whether they get bombed or not. And of course, this is great in a lap 3 situation, but you probably knew that already. In some situations, you may want to chain your shock into second set, but I feel like in most situations, the best move is to chain your shock into the first set. You could potentially target shock people in the beginning shortcut, and those in front of you may feel they need to go wide for the second set, and if you don't need to, you can really take advantage of that. Again, it's super situational, but I feel like chaining into the first set gives you the most benefits if used correctly. Just keep in mind that this is a very predictable shock. As long as you take that into consideration, you'll turn out just fine. But with that, Donut Plains 3 has been covered. Let's see what's in store on Royal Raceway. Royal Raceway is a bit of a weird track, honestly. It's a rather uncommon one for sure, but I think it's a safe pick if you don't know what else to go and you like the track. Overall, I'd say this is a balanced track. It's possible to break away here, but you also have numerous opportunities to catch up. Those may seem like bagging track qualities, but I'd say it's much harder to hard bag on this track and really profit from it. In Wars, again, you'll likely be picking this when you don't know what else to go, so spots don't really matter. All over the place spots can make the track selection process pretty tough, so if your team likes this track, I'd say this is a viable option. And Mogi, again, pick this track if you like it. I can't imagine you holding on to first if you pick it for first, and even then, there are so many better alternatives. So all in all, Royal Raceway is a balanced track. You have 3 item sets on this track. Wow! But it's not all that stereotypical. At the first set, it's your average 5 single boxes. That is a wow moment right there. But things spice up at the second set. You have 2 routes. If you take the faster ramp strat, you have 2 single boxes. But if you go around, you have 4 single boxes with a double box in the middle. The wide double box factor makes this set an interesting one to say the least. And at the last set, you have 3 single boxes with a double box in the middle and on the very right. These are pretty popular online, so stay alert if you really need 2 items and can't afford the bag. The golden strat on this track is a pretty cool one. Begin goldening as you enter the shroom spot and you'll be able to cut off a good chunk of off-road afterwards as well. You can even stay on the left of the finish line as your golden runs out. For that reason alone, this is great in a lap 3 situation. And the star strat on this track is very, very solid as well. Chain your star into the first set and cut off all the off-road you can. In a lap 3 situation, this can really help you out, regardless of what position you're in, whether you're looking for a new power item or just trying to pass a ton of people freely. The bill strat is once again used in the same place as the golden strat. Make sure to hop a wee bit in the off-road cut, then activate your bill. Your bill will drop you off midway through the last or first straight. It's fantastic in a lap 3 situation, especially because you're using it through a very tight section. You have some decent options for bomb spots on this track. Let's start with the bomb on the ramp shortcut. It's best to drop it early so that your opponents can't easily get the boost from the boost ramp right away. And considering you can get another item box right after, this one is really good. While I back my bomb a little to the left here, honestly, backing a bomb in the middle before the shortcut is a solid option. The track is tight enough to screw over your opponents if they can't enter the off-road early without losing time. This can work out really well in your favor. And lastly, on the second short turn, not only is this the tightest section on the track, but those who could be shrooming up might not see this bomb coming. It can do wonders in a lap 3 situation, so I suggest taking advantage of it. To be honest, this shock spot is probably one of the best shock spots in the game. Chaining your shock into the second set can make some serious waves. You could target shock a few people in the very front, and those in front of you won't be able to take the ending shortcut, while you likely can unless they dodge. Unfortunately, this is a super situational shock on your own, but in the right situation, you could completely flip the race with this one. Either way, we're finished with Royal Raceway. Let's finish strong on DK Jungle. DK Jungle is one of the most technical tracks in the game, and with only one real shortcut that saves only a wee bit of time, I think this is a running track without question. You just have so many opportunities to break away here, and your opponents will have to really work to screw you over if you are able to break away. In Wars, I'd suggest picking this when you have at least first and some top middle spots as well. Holding on to first is cool, but people will pull shrooms first set, and people will shroom up. You won't be able to keep first unless everyone behind you screws themselves, so having those top middle spots to get a few shrooms will help your team a lot. In Mogi, I suggest picking this when you're starting in a top middle spot primarily, but it also isn't a bad option when you're starting in first. You won't keep first, but you'll still be in the front, and that's always a good thing. So yeah, DK Jungle is without a doubt a running track. Well, yeah, there are 3 item sets on this track. Yeehaw, bud! At the first set, it's really tight. You only have 4 single boxes. A few could lag though, so even if you're starting in the back, you could very well get an item, specifically a mushroom. The second set is also really tight, but you have 3 single boxes with a double box right at the very left box. It can be pretty tough to nail 2 items here in the pack, so you could run into issues if you really need 2 items here and can't afford to stop. And at the final set, you have 4 single boxes with 2 double boxes in the middle. This set can make the ending of races super chaotic, so you gotta step your awareness game up after the set, especially in a lap 3 situation. Using your golden in the shroom spot really won't make the most out of the golden's capabilities, so your best option is to golden after your trick boost runs out before the final set. It's a bit of a tight strat, but it's really good in a lap 3 situation. Unless you're too far behind, that's the only scenario where it wouldn't work. You can definitely benefit from chaining your star at whatever set, but honestly, using your star after passing the second pillar on the glider will give you a lot of reassurance, especially if you're in the pack in a lap 3 situation. You'll be invincible for pretty much the rest of the race, and considering you're starring on the second last straight, that's more than enough reason to consider this to be the best star strat on the track. And the bill strat here is also really sick. Hop into the shroom spot and activate your bill. I don't know if there's a small bill extension here or not, but regardless, you'll get dropped off right before the ramp before the last set. This is a really good bill strat, and I'd highly recommend taking advantage of it. You have 3 amazing bomb spots on this track. The first one is really good, being on the bridge before the second set. This one is pretty much unavoidable, and you can give yourself a solid lead by screwing over the people right behind you. You can also backing bomb as you get on the pillar section of the glider path. Backing it here will screw over your opponents, and they won't be able to get their speed back from the glider quick enough to make this bomb spot not worth it. It's pretty awesome, but the final bomb spot takes the cake without a doubt. Backing it on the second last straight, ideally close enough to the tight path, will make some serious waves in the race, especially on lap 3. If you back it close enough to the tight path, your opponents will either fall off or take the wide path, so you're essentially doubling down on how powerful this bomb spot really is. Now, this clip is all but a good representation of the shock spot, so just try to imagine it. Chaining your shock into the last set is an amazing decision if under the right circumstances. You could target shock some people on the glider or on the final turn, you could deny people from taking the tight path efficiently, and you could be the only one with items on the second last straight. One way or another, this is an amazing shock spot. In most cases, you don't even have to worry about how much time you have after the last set to catch up, because there's a ton of track between the last set and the finish line. But with that, we have covered all of these strategies on the tracks in the Banana Cup. I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, I'd really appreciate it if you'd like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. And with that, we are officially more than halfway done with how to play Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Well, at least going over every track's driving and strategies. I'm not exactly sure what my plans are beyond Bell Cup strategies, but we'll see how she goes. Either way, I really hope these videos are helping you out in some way. But until next time, thank you so much for watching. Have yourselves a fantastic day, and keep on giving her, bud.